Hello and welcome to an MTR Fab video. This is MTR, and today we're going to do a rear brake job on an ATC 250R. This is the Honda three-wheeler version of the 250 two-stroke from 1985 and 86. This is the rear caliper. There's more going on than just a caliper, so we're going to assess that as well. If you can see all the grease, I believe I over-greased the axle carrier that's inside here the last time I used, or the last time I pulled the axle. To grease this carrier, you have to actually pull it out past halfway so you can get to the zerk in the middle, unfortunately. So that only happens once in a while, and when it does, I make sure I put enough grease in it. And this was the outcome the last time I did it. Fortunate for me, the brake pads are gone anyway. You can see the piston is pretty much out all the way. There's almost no friction material on the pads. It's time to replace them. So I'm going to show you guys how I do that. I'll take you along with me. First things first though, I'm going to clean up all the grease. And I'm actually going to clean up this axle. The axle I'll clean up with WD-40 and probably some red emery cloth or Scotch-Brite, whatever you want to call it. I'll show you that when I get it in my hand. And as for this, I'm going to just wipe as much of it off as I can with just a rag initially. I know that this was a rattle can paint job that I did to this swing arm, so it will literally, the paint will run right off of it if I use brake clean on it. So if I'm going to spray brake clean on this, I am going to spray it that direction. I'm not going to spray it this direction, and I'm going to use as little as possible. In order to do that, I'm going to scrape most of it off before I even start with a regular old rag. So I'll get back to you guys. I'm going to sand that down with a Scotch-Brite brand 3M, because 3M is the good stuff. And we're going to use WD-40, and I'm going to just clean that up. I might use it like this with two hands and zip back and forth, or just wrap your hand around it and get after it. Neighbor took a break with the leaf blower. I got this side sanded out pretty good. I'm happy with that. I'll put butcher's wax on this, and that'll help it from flashing over. Last time I think I forgot to put actual wax on it, and I just left the WD residue all over it. So that's what it looks like before, and that's what it looks like after. Some red Scotch-Brite real quick. Alright, axle all cleaned up. We're moving on to the brakes. I got the two little plugs out. You can see there's never sees all over them from the last time I put this together. They wouldn't come out if I didn't do that. Right? These pins were nice and loose, but then you use an Allen key. Again, I think this is the 5mm, the M5. But I'm going to take these pins, I've knocked them loose. I don't need to actually take them out right now. But now I'm focused on these bolts down in here, which are 12mm. We're going to take these two off, and then this whole caliper is going to swing on this joint right here. Alright, took those two lower bolts out. They're right there. Came out nice and easy. Now you can see all the grease packed up in there. I'll start cleaning that out. I'll clean all the way around these pistons. You can see these are original pistons. How do I know? Because they're nickel, nice shiny nickel coated. But you can see they're all the way out. There's almost no pad material left. So if you ever need to buy this bracket, you need to know what you're buying, and that's why you should look at my other video, which talks about the differences of these swing arms from 85 to 86. They are different, and this is different, and so is this lower bracket. So if you're purchasing parts for your rear end, for your caliper, for the swing arm, you need to know what year it is. Cleaned around the pistons. See how they're shiny? The replacements, if you buy them nowadays, I believe, are going to come black. At least the ones I have are, and they're like some sort of plastic This is an OEM caliper. It came directly out of the box like, whatever, 15 years ago. I'm going to lube up the slides with some silicone brake grease. This one was getting sticky. I'm going to pop that out and lube that as well. There's the pads. They were pretty much junk. Still there. All the hardware was anti-seized. We're going to clean it up and then put a new liberal application on there and move forward. Get the calipers pushed back, or the pistons pushed back in the caliper body. Lubed up this slide, took it out, cleaned it up, put Silglide on it. Same thing with that pin. I'm going to slide it back up in here, put the nut on, and then load the pads in it. So if you watched the first video with the front brake job, I used these pads up front. I'm going to use the other set out back, and we'll see if they last any longer or less than the last set. Unfortunately, when I went to put this back together, this is a steel bolt and an aluminum thread, and it's been tightened its maximum number of times. But when you get it tight, it just keeps turning, and there's really no effort required to strip it. So I've got to do something about that. I'm going to either, I do have an aluminum TIG welder, which I may end up just welding this hole up and tapping and drilling it again. But we'll see what I come up with. I'll let you guys know. This is as far as I can go today, I guess, because the bracket's messed up. So I'm just going to set this off to the side. Cleaned everything up. Here's the topic of conversation. I was going to do some fab work with this for you guys, but I found an alternative route. So let me describe to you what's going on here. So these are steel bolts. These are what was in this bracket to hold it to the caliper stay. The two bolts go through here. The caliper slides on these other two holes up here. I just cleaned this up with soap and water and a toothbrush. Got all the grease and stuff off it so I could see it. I would, in a perfect world, time cert this. And if you don't know what a time cert is, but you're probably familiar with the term helicoil, and helicoils suck. And why helicoils suck is, once you've used a time cert, you'll realize you never want to use a helicoil again. So the proper thing would be to time cert these holes with a steel insert. And that looks something like this. So this is a time cert set. Up top in this picture are the certs. But as you can see, it's $90 for that. So you say, well, you can probably find a bracket cheaper. Well, remember, these are 1985 and 86 250Rs. These brackets are, well, so this is an 85. Let's be clear about that. How I know it's an 85 is it has that dog bone link there. Now, this part, if you can find it on eBay right now, is going for about 90 bucks. The same price as the time cert that would be required to fix this one. Now, alternate route would be, well, just weld these holes up and tap and drill them yourself with an 8x125 drill kit. This one happened to have the price on it. It was $11.50. Now that's much cheaper if you have a welder. But this is where you get into, it depends on who you are, what you have at your access. So when you buy one of these machines used, this is the type of stuff you're going to find. You're going to find strip bolts all over it. You're going to find broken stuff, stuff that's been replaced. It's just a part of it. So the proper way would be to time cert this. The cheap way would be to weld it up and tap and drill it. But what's even better that I'm getting at, I went downstairs and looked for a little bit, and this is what I found. I happen to have another one of these things, and the holes are perfect. I'm not going to throw this away. I am probably going to order the cert at some point. 8x125 is a pretty common thread pitch. It'd be nice to have that time cert set anyway. But I'm not going to wait to put this thing back together. I'm going to utilize what I have right in my hand, and that's why you don't throw parts away. And that's why I keep everything, even if it's broken, because you might find that there's some other use for it, like this one. We're going to fix it, and it's going to be useful. Again, I'm going to convert my bike to an 86 at some point, so this doesn't really matter. I'm just looking to put this thing back together. One thing I don't have when I put it back together is the stainless steel piece that goes here, but you can buy that on eBay for like 13 bucks. So I'm probably going to go on there and order one of those now. I want to share with you why I think this happens, and I'm going to show you as best as I can. See this, how this bolt barely sticks through? If the rotor comes in and nips that edge, it screws the edge of the bolt up. And the first thing you do is go drag that tooth all the way through your threads and chow them up. So just make sure the hardware that you're using is short enough in there that it's not going to be an issue. You can see that there's no lip on this one because it's been worn off. So when I put this back together, I'm going to pay extra attention to whatever's going on here and make sure that I have the proper clearance between this and the rotor. A lot of the stuff back here on my bike is aftermarket. So is this just wear? And you can see it again up in here. Or is there something else going on? You've got to ask yourself that before you go destroying new parts. Before I install this bracket, I noticed these ears are all pounded over. I don't know how they got that way, but I do know that it's going to prevent my bracket from laying flat and my hardware from tightening up nice and flat. So I'm going to take this cutoff wheel, wheel of death, and I'm going to wiggle it in there and just shave those down. Right? I'm going to do that off camera, clean that up. And then we're going to check the clearance between this and that bracket. Here's the issue. After all that, we discussed how there may be something else going on here. And I definitely believe there is, because I cannot get the new bracket to even fit down in here. So the one that's in there that you see is the old bracket, the original bracket. And now that I'm encountering this again, I feel like I realized this the last time this went back together, and that's why I said I wanted to convert this to an 86 rear end, is because there's something weird in here that's worn out. I cannot get this axle nut tight and still have enough room for this rotor. There are no pieces missing. I've checked the breakdown. I'm going to do a little more investigation, but that's going to be another video. This one just kind of runs into, not being totally finished. So we're going to do a second part on this, and I'm going to share with you guys what I find. We're going to figure out why I don't have this clearance room. Obviously I was focused on the swing arm issues when I took this apart and just threw it back together, and I knew it didn't have any rear brakes. That's another topic of conversation. After all this, I started thinking about it, and I think the master cylinder on this one is junk too, if I remember correctly, and that's probably a whole nother issue that I'm gonna have to deal with that we'll share with you in the next video. So this thing still has no rear brakes. We will get some rear brakes, and I'll share with you what it takes. I mean, I might custom machine a bracket. I don't know. I don't really know what's going on here, and I've looked at parts breakdowns. The only thing I haven't done is taken this back apart, and I'm going to, but I don't really think I'm going to find anything. So until then, we'll do another video, but keep tuned and we'll figure out what's going on with this, and we'll get some rear brakes in here. Either way, the caliper is good, and everything slides and it's back together, but now we got a bracket issue. We're going to get that addressed and deal with it. If you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Anything I do, I'm going to share with you. So here we are, and I'm done for today. Please check back next week. Thanks everybody. I'm out.